Okay, so here's a quick recap of the final card play and the final turn, and basically the conclusion of my solo playthrough of the Barbarossa scenario of victory in Europe. The Russians actually went first on this turn, which was quite to the detriment of the Germans, I would say. Even though they only had one command, mind you, they have to be split evenly. So the 3 is actually just 1 for the Russians and 2 would go to the Allies, even though they don't actually participate, but that is still the standard rule. And the Germans had 2 command to spend. But since the 3 is a higher number, the Russians went first, and well, that turned out disastrously for the Germans. It actually made me, well, do a few things that I normally wouldn't have done, but since this is an all or nothing turn, yeah, I took some risks, like I said, that I normally wouldn't have. There was a battle. I just put the battle tokens back on to show you where the battles took place. One of them was in Kharkov here, where a lone German leader was positioned. So the Russians thought, okay, let's attack that one. They might not have known if this hadn't been a solo game that was in fact the leader, but okay, I did. And even if I hadn't known, then that probably still would have been an obvious location to attack in, because it might have potentially cut off the largest, well, you know, prevent the Germans from retreating or whatever. So, and besides that, I normally don't mind too much about that. I just enjoy playing solo for learning a game, and you know, the occasional fact that you actually know where a certain unit is. It personally doesn't bother me, even though I can completely understand that some people would be bothered by it. Anyway, what happened is, well, actually not much happened. On the second round, the German leader was actually reinforced by an air unit and one German infantry unit. And I believe on round 2, the Germans suffered 1 casualty or so, but not much really happened. After all, this is a winter turn, and all units hit on a 1, and secondary targets can't even be hit at all if secondary targets actually become firepower 0 against them. So actually not much happened there, and they survived. What happened here that was even more interesting, the Germans tried to attack here and then possibly blitz into this territory. I don't even know what it's called. It's Kursk. And the idea was to blitz into there and then seize Kursk in order to get the 4 resource points needed for a minor victory. But that didn't happen. What did happen is that these were the German troops actually there, apart from a fighter. There was a fighter there too, but yeah, there weren't enemy aircraft present. So what happened is, well, it was there, but it actually didn't do much because it couldn't hit anything. That was the only German unit that actually managed to retreat. But these 2, they were cut off, and that was because the Russians were allowed to move first. So they moved some forces into this territory, which is Kursk, to protect it, of course. Yeah, and that also cut off the retreat path for the Germans, also because it was foolish enough to actually put lots of German units from the rear for a potential 1942 turn, which is never going to happen. But I did it anyway. I moved them all to the front, and the result was that these units here, a leader, which has been reduced to step 0 because I used it twice to extend the battle, you know, an all or nothing attempt. But yeah, they were cut off. They weren't eliminated. They were cut off, unable to retreat, and that's how they got eliminated after all. So very interesting result, very enjoyable scenario, I have to admit. I really recommend it for learning how to play the land portion of this game. Next I will try either the French scenario, which is also there, a shorter one, or I might just try a 1941 or 1943 scenario. I will hold off with the 1939 scenario still a little bit. I don't know, on the one hand I really like the diplomacy rules, and on the other hand, I also just like the fact that you kind of know who are your allies and who aren't. So a more historical game as far as that's concerned, you know, like judging by the way World War II actually turned out. But again, I really recommend this scenario to get to know land combat in this game. You don't have to deal with the allies. There's no Italy in this game. No other miners. Not much in the way of building additional factories or resource points. So a very simplified version of the game, just focusing on land combat in the East, and it's a lot of fun. So this particular scenario turned out in a major Russian win, I think, because the Germans neither control 4 resource points, nor do they control Leningrad, and they don't control Moscow either. Let me just double check on those resource points. What does it say? The Soviets win a minor victory if they deny Germany a victory, and a major victory if they deny a German victory while losing no more than 1 resource. Well, they didn't lose more than that, so it's a Russian minor victory in this scenario.